All the way from the start, I can feel it in my heart, like all the way from the start.
Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today's video is by request. Had a subscriber ask me, Sean, how do I fix a muddy mix? So how do I get rid of a lot of the problematic frequency areas? What are the problematic frequency bands to remedy a muddy mix, and what are some things to consider? So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to let you hear this quick mix that is very muddy, very murky at this point. I've got some things disabled right now, but we're going to go in and I'm going to talk about those 3 problematic frequency bands, and then we're going to really clear this thing up very quickly. So let's take a quick listen.
Thought I dropped the ball, but I'm coming for it. I don't gotta tell you, better run for it. 6-minute mile, yeah, I'm working hardest. Faith up in the sky, wins from the most high, oh yeah. Most of them said I'd be a slave to delinquency, but they don't know what I feel, driven by the truth that's inside of me. Yeah, egos and odds been stacked against me all day, but the worst of it all is thoughts and words I didn't say.
All right, so let's talk about the first problematic band that we can EQ to really remedy a muddy mix, and that is going to be anything below 200. And so this is something that we would want to cut on a lot of the instrumentation, and even in some vocal tracks where we just don't want any of that low end information fighting with the kick, the bass line. We've already got 2 bass lines in this track. And so this synth layer that I've got going right now, there is a lot of low end. Let's just play that back and take a listen here. So you've got all that going underneath 200, and then I've got these 2 bass lines that are trying to occupy that space. Plus, you've got a kick that we're trying to get to poke through. So just way too much fighting for that 200 and below range. So all we need to do is just get rid of a lot of that in the various tracks. Luckily, in this particular beat, in this track, this is the only instrument that's really giving me that problem. So I'm just going to cut everything off below 200. And now we're going to get the texture. We're going to get what we need out of it. But it totally creates just a complete opening for the kick and those bass lines to really cut through, give us more impact, and just make it less murky down in the low end. All right, so moving on to the vocal, we're going to talk about the second problematic area that creates a lot of mud, a lot of murk in your mix, and that is going to be the 200 to 800 band. So you see here, I've got the EQ bypassed on the SSL channel, but I am cutting a significant amount right here on the low mid frequency control at about 200, but we've got the Q opened up some, so we're going to be hitting anywhere from 200 to 400, somewhere in there. So just depending upon the vocal, I have a lower voice, and I get a lot of boominess between the 200 and 500 range. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And then we're also boosting the high end quite a bit. You see me do this in other videos to add some air. And then we're making that same, cut off of all the low end with the 120 hertz filter here. And then I'm even cutting a little bit more with just the bell curve on the low frequency at about 250. So all that together, we are getting rid of a lot of information there. Let's play that back with it bypass first, and then I'll turn it on so you can hear the difference.
Thought I dropped the ball, but I'm coming for it. I don't gotta tell you, better run for it. 6-minute mile, yeah, I'm working hardest. Faith up in the sky, wins from the most high, oh yeah. Most of them said I'd be.
once again, we're clearing out so much information, and our mix is just opening up so quickly by really tailoring the cuts that we're making to these specific areas. So moving down here to the stereo bus or the master bus, you've seen us dealing with the instrumentation and the vocal individually, but sometimes even after you do that, once all these tracks have been blended together, you get down into the mastering process and you want to make some more fine cuts just to get rid of any mud. So let's move down to the stereo bus, and let's just say, for example, that we didn't have as much control here, or we weren't able to deal with this stuff individually, and we're working on a master. We can simply use something like a multiband compressor to dial in those problematic areas. So speaking on the 200 to 800 range, right here I've dialed this in to, let's just move this up to 200. And then we've got this one up at about 830. And so with it bypassed,
thought I dropped the ball, but I'm coming for it. I don't gotta tell you, better run for it. 6-minute mile.
And with it enabled,
thought I dropped the ball, but I'm coming for it. I don't gotta tell you, better run for it. 6-minute mile, yeah, I'm working hardest. Faith up in the sky wins from the most high. Oh yeah, most of them said I'd be a slave to the.
So again, same concept there, but just showing you that we can deal with these things in the mastering process very similarly. Obviously, you'd love to have control over all the individual tracks, so you can just deal with it very specifically in that way and not take away from some of the elements that you don't want to be making those cuts. But in the master, it is possible to do this. So finally, let's talk about the last problematic band in terms of having a muddy mix. And that is going to be more towards the 1K to 2.5K. Now, I know this could be considered more of the mids or high mids, but what you're going to find is when you get a lot of buildup there, it's still just as unpleasing, and it can cause a lack of clarity. It can be kind of a muddy resonance, and so I like to tame that as well. So I'm just going to slide this and create a band on our master from 1K to 2.5, and I'll probably bring that up just a little bit, and then let's bypass it, and I'm going to bring this threshold down.
Thought I dropped the ball, but I'm coming for it. I don't gotta tell you, better run for it. 6-minute mile, yeah, I'm working hardest. Faith up in the sky wins from the most high. Oh yeah, most of them said I'd be a slave to delinquency, but they don't know what I feel, driven by the truth that's inside of me. Yeah, egos and odds been stacked against me all day, but the worst of it all is thoughts and words I didn't say.
So you can hear when we engage that, it takes some of the tinny, resonant, just unpleasing information out of the mids, the high mids. And this is particularly a useful band to cut in vocals, especially when you're stacking vocals. I just find that the buildup there in that 1K to 2.5K range can start to be very ear fatiguing. So when you're listening on things like earbuds, you're going to really notice and pick up on that band. So using a multi-band compressor, something with some active EQ sort of elements to it, is going to be helpful whenever you get that buildup. All right, y'all, so we have covered the 3 problematic bands in terms of what we need to control to really fix a muddy mix. And that's going to be, our low end, anything below 200. And then we've also got a 200 to 800 band that can give us a lot of issues. And then finally, that 1K to 2.5K is particularly problematic in terms of having a muddy mix. So hopefully this gives you guys an idea of the things to listen for and look out for, and then how to control those, either using them individually on the tracks that are specifically giving you problems in those ranges, or if you want to do this more towards the mastering and make it more subtle, then you can still do that with something like a multi-band compressor. Hope you guys find this helpful. If you have any questions or comments about what we did, feel free to leave a comment below. If you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing. We'll talk to you soon.
In the past, you got the best of me, but recently been getting the feeling potential, the ceiling, my television, the lead, and we're living now.